And when I was in Amsterdam, this other quarterback, he ended up taking my spot. His name is Kurt Warner. You probably never heard of him. Because when you look back, I started the gym because I was in pain. I went down the circuitous route to heal my back pain through Double E and all the mentors and gurus I learned under. Next thing I know, people are coming in, including Drew Brees and Sprolzy and LaDainian. The greats, the true greats, have the ability and the discipline to do what they say they're going to do. But what are you willing to do to get to where you want to go? Because it's not just, hey, I want to make $1 million. Okay, what are you willing to do to get there? How many books are you willing to read? How many podcasts are you listening to on a regular basis? Or are you just listening to music all the time?
Let's go. Episode 63, Stay Classy, San Diego. Todd Durkin on the show. So happy to have you, Todd. Thanks for coming on today.
Man, fired up to be here. Thanks, Steve.
Absolutely. And we got connected through Noah Phillips, who was episode 59. Was that right, Rob? Episode 59 guest. Shout out to Noah Phillips for making that connection. And one thing that he said, I was asking him, like, who are some of the mentors, people in your life that played a role in your development as an athlete, as a trainer? And you were the first person that came to his lips. And I was like, I got to get this guy on the show if he's in San Diego. And turns out you are. So really excited to have you today. Just a quick background check. A few background details is, one, you're a trainer, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a motivational coach. You're from New Jersey, but you live in San Diego now. And you are the founder and owner, correct, of Fitness Quest 10?
That's correct.
That's correct. And you founded in what, like 20 plus years ago?
Yeah, year 2000.
2000. Okay, that was a long time ago. That was almost as long as me. He had an abundance of passion to help people achieve their goals, though, and it was his dream to share his lessons for all people of all ages, shapes, sizes, and levels. You also played overseas quarterback as a football in France until you suffered an injury at the age of 25, which we're going to get into in a bit. But then you founded the gym. You were a featured trainer and finalist on the 2016 television show NBC Strong, produced by Dave Broom and Sylvester Stallone. And you're also an author and a host of the podcast show, The Impact Show. Or it's the Todd Durkin Impact Show is the name.
That's correct.
And then you're also the founder, along with your wife, of the Durkin Impact Foundation, which I want to ask you about because we always love talking about philanthropy on the podcast. So first question that I have for you is just in terms of the gym and Fitness Quest, for people who are interested in, like, hey, this guy's a gym, I want to get involved, I want to know about this. Like, why did you found the gym? How did it start? And like, sort of like what was like unique about that idea?
Yeah, I'll talk about that, but I got to make sure I give a shout out to my man, Noel Phillips.
Yeah.
Because Noel Phillips, what episode, 59?
59.
Listen to that guy, because my first athlete I trained, his name was LaDainian Tomlinson. So he was the San Diego Chargers. Can I get amen, all you San Diego Charger fans? LaDainian, I started working with him 2004, his rookie year, and I trained LaDainian for 9 years. But Noel Phillips used to come out to every session on the field and work with LT. And it was just one of those things that, Noel was a young guy trying to come up, and LaDainian and I kind of started mentoring this young man. And I just talked to LaDainian the other day, and again, if you don't know who LT is, one of the best running backs of all time, certainly for the Chargers. And But Noel has always been one of those guys that is a really special person. As a young man and now as a trainer and coach, I've really enjoyed watching his growth professionally as well as personally. But I just got to give a shout out to him before I get into all of it.
Absolutely.
Because, man, it's people that make things special.
He's great.
He's a great man.
He's great.
So go back and listen to that when you're done listening to this one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, Noel was awesome. And, he is somebody who was instrumental in my own growth, fitness, personally, development-wise. And I think there's a lot of great things in front of him in terms of accomplishments. I think he's just getting started. Yep. And as for you, though, and your journey and sort of what you've accomplished so far, can you tell us a bit about the gym and how that came about?
So I started it in year 2000. And it started essentially because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was a former professional quarterback. I was playing overseas. I'm originally from New Jersey, and I'm playing football overseas. I was in Germany, Amsterdam, and then France. And when I was in Amsterdam, this other quarterback, he ended up taking my spot. His name is Kurt Warner. You probably never heard of him, but Kurt Warner was up in Amsterdam.
He almost broke my Steelers' hearts in 2008.
Right, exactly. But But when I went to France and played over there, I ended up hurting my back. 3 herniated discs, spinal stenosis, degenerative back disease, left me motionless on a football field in Aix-en-Provence, France. I was 25 years old, and let me tell you what, Steve, I was in a lot of pain, physical pain, because from 5 to 25, I had a dream to play in the NFL. That's what I wanted to do. And I worked my tail off, and I committed a lot. I wasn't much of a partier. I did well in school. I went to William & Mary in Virginia. Again, grew up in Jersey, went down 7 hours south to William & Mary in Virginia. And I did things the right way for the most part and followed my path. But when I got that injury, I was devoid of purpose. I already had my degree. I'd had a massage therapy certification. I had a personal training certification. But man, it was football that really fired me up. And all of a sudden now I'm in France and I can't fly home on a plane because my back is so jacked up. So I spent the better half of 3 months rehabbing in the south of France. Don't feel bad for me. The south of France isn't a bad place to rehab. But
It's a nice place.
let me tell you what, when you're in a lot of pain, for anyone that is listening and you've ever tasted pain, man, it was pain where I had to stay there because I couldn't sit upright in a plane for 7 hours. So I rehabbed over there. Long story short, and I'll make this as short as possible. I eventually get back to New Jersey, where I'm from. I meet a guy named Michael King. Michael King, at the time, he produced Oprah Winfrey. Michael says, hey, I understand you're an athlete. I have a bad back, and I was an athlete, about 50 years old. Can you help me? I said, absolutely can help you. I start training Michael King at the Jersey Shore. That's where I'm from. I start training Michael King. Next thing I know, Michael's like, why are you going to go to grad school at Auburn University when you can come out with me to Malibu, California, and not only work with me, but work with all of the Hollywood people?
Yeah.
Now listen, Steve, I know every athlete, not every athlete. I know athletes really well. I know first stringers, second stringers, third stringers, especially with football, basketball, baseball. I know a lot of the traditional sports. But when it comes to Hollywood, I don't know many of the actors and actresses. I don't follow the Hollywood scene. So I eventually moved to LA, to Malibu. And on one side of me, because I was living at Sting's Beach House, training Michael King. The singer Sting, not the wrestler Sting, for all you people listening in. And Rob Reiner's on one side, Tom Hanks, famous actor, on the other side. And I'm like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
I don't even know who they are.
You didn't know who Tom Hanks was?
I knew who Tom Hanks was from the outside, but
Yeah.
I didn't know who Rob Reiner was, one of the most famous producers and all
great.
these other actors and actresses. Tom Hanks, obviously, he's legendary. But why do I share that? Well, because that started for me this journey of, number one, being on the West Coast now. I was still taking Vicodin for my back.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And
So,
how old were you at that point?
I was 25. I
Yeah.
was still 25. It was a very circuitous, crazy way. I'm taking Vicodin. I can't survive without Vicodin. And here I am, a quote, coach trainer, taking the Vic because I needed to train and have a living. So I just knew in my heart of hearts that I wasn't going to end up in LA.
Yeah.
But there was this guy named Dub Lee who was coming to LA. His name was Dub Lee.
Doubly. Okay.
Dub Lee. He's a body worker. Does what's called Rolfing and Feldenkrais. All these types of work I ended up studying because Dub Lee got me out of pain. And my whole purpose of getting to the West Coast at that point was work with Michael King. I got trained by Dub Lee, one of the best body workers of all time. He actually directly trained under who was Ida Rolf and Moshe Feldenkrais, two iconic people in the bodywork field. Well, I ended up then saying, I'm going to go to grad school to get my master's degree in biomechanics and sports medicine at age 27. I ended up leaving LA, go to grad school. Day one, I meet my future wife, day one.
Day one.
Now, let me tell you, she was the aerobics instructor. So she was teaching aerobics. I was teaching
You're the
weight
student.
training, and
Was she a student too, or was
no?
She
She was a graduate student
she was a graduate
as well.
student,
So I wasn't
okay.
hitting on the young gals.
Yeah.
She was a grad student. We're both GTAs, graduate teaching
Did you ask her
assistants.
out that day, or did it happen later?
No, well, now you're going to get deep on us. Well, truthfully, we were both dating other people, but I just was like, this girl's a good-looking girl.
Yeah.
We became friends for 9 months.
Okay.
And when it was clean and all good, and that, I eventually asked her out, and
There you go.
she's been my wife for 23 years.
Congratulations.
But I share that story because when I finished grad school 29, she got a full-time teaching job here in San Diego at a community college called Southwestern College. Well, the same week she got offered a teaching job, I got offered a full-time strength and conditioning position at a college back in LA. So here I am, I'm 29.
You got a choice to make.
Choices.
Yeah.
I'm 29 thinking, all right, if I go to LA, I don't want to start another long-distance relationship. And if I do, it's not going to work out. It's not going to be good.
No.
And I don't love LA. So
No.
I made the crazy decision to give up that job. Now, that was the first job of its kind where you were a tenure track strength and conditioning coach at a community college. And that was the position I was offered. When I turned it down, they said, are you crazy? I mean, they said, like, people don't turn these full-time
it's like getting into
college jobs
Stanford.
down.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really good position. I'm like, I know my girlfriend, what I mean, my fiance, my girlfriend just took a job, and here I go back in it for 3 months. I was pretty down and out. Like, I didn't have a job. I wasn't making money. I just turned down a great job making good money. And here I am. Well, why do I share that? Because 3 months later, I found what eventually became the gym I opened, called Fitness Quest 10. It was late 1999. I opened the door on January 1, year 2000. No clients, no money, no business plan. Let me repeat that. No clients, no money, no business plan.
Was it just you?
Just me.
Yeah.
Not a smart way. I would never tell anyone today, hey, go open a business with no clients, no money, no business plan. Not smart. I got away with it because of pure passion at the time. I would never advise anyone to do that today, but I had refurbished equipment, carpet on the floor. It was only 2,000 square feet. Now, Fitness Quest 10 has over 8,000 square feet. And it's awesome. And my dreams have expanded way beyond survival mode. Because at age 30, just a couple months after I opened at age 29, in March of 2000, I turned 30 years old, and I'm like, man, like, I just got to survive, right? I got to survive, and that has started what has been a pretty crazy, close to 25-year history in health and fitness and sports, and now coaching and speaking and that, and I think, if you were to sum it all up, and we can go through what you want, but really life is all about evolution and growth. If you're 25 years old, or you're 30 years old, or you're 50 years old, it's all about growth. How are you growing as a man or a woman? Yeah. How are you giving back to your family? I have now 3 kids. 2 are in college. It's crazy for me to say that.
Yeah.
But it's, man, what's your purpose about, and what are you designed to do? And I have been able to define that in the last 12 to 15 years much clearer now after taking some significant risks, starting a business with nothing, and looking back. And I'll tell you this, looking back now, my back pain was also one of my biggest blessings. That injury was one of my biggest blessings. Because when you look back, I started the gym because I was in pain. I went down the circuitous route to heal my back pain through Double E and all the mentors and gurus I learned under. Next thing I know, people are coming in, including Drew Brees and Sproulsy and LaDainian. At first, it was not, hey, I want to be an NFL MVP or Super Bowl champ. It was, man, I got some pain. I need to be helped. And next thing you know, I'm working with some of the best athletes in the world.
I didn't know you worked with Drew Brees. I knew about Sproles and LT, but I wanted to ask you, one more comment is that it's interesting how you had the LA versus San Diego situation, because that's why I moved to San Diego, is I turned down a job in LA to come to San Diego. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about like the gym itself, about I mean, now you guys started small, but now it's like a state-of-the-art facility. I mean, I haven't been there in person, but I've seen the website, I know what you guys are about. It's a state-of-the-art facility. You have lots of clients. You're doing well. But like, what is like sort of unique about the experience? Like, just for people who might even be interested in training, you feel like what's sort of unique about the experience, about the approach, about the values of the gym?
Well, community.
Yeah,
it's all about community now. Community meaning, if there's one thing that the pandemic taught us all, is you need some great fire-breathing dragons around you nonstop. People who are breathing life into you. I need that. You need that. Anyone listening needs that inner circle of people around you that is going to breathe life into you and literally say, I got this, we got this, we're going to go after it. Versus sometimes apathy sets in and mediocrity sets in, and you just go check the box that you went to work and you did your thing. That ain't going to cut the mustard.
No.
So what I created at Fitness Quest 10, and now I brought in a business partner in Jeff Bristol, is we've got an enigmatic, unbelievable team and staff of people at Fitness Quest 10 that is just awesome. And the community of people, hundreds deep, of everyday people. People often say, "Oh, Todd, you work with all these NFL athletes." Well, I have and I do. That's kind of my.
That's not all who you are.
No, that's part of my niche. But it's really everybody. It's from the kids to the grandmas and grandpas to the people who I work with quite a bit. The everyday, the dads who are struggling as men, to like they're working and they're providing for their families, but man, they're missing the mojo.
Yeah,
they used to have the mojo and now they don't have the mojo. They lost it and they're 20 pounds overweight and they want to get it back. Or the young former athlete who sports is over now and they kind of lost their way and they're looking for a direction. And you're like, man, Todd, I want to get into fitness or strength and conditioning, or I want to change people's lives and that. I'm like, all right, well, let's set a track. Let's set a path so that, you can set some goals and let's work toward them over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, all the way to the point where, I don't know, do you want to open a gym someday? What do you want to do? And maybe it has nothing to do with fitness, or maybe it does. And that's what I love to do.
Hey there, San Diego. I've been using Dorado Nutrition supplements for a little while now, and I can tell you they've made a huge difference in my health journey. Not only are they made in the USA with high quality ingredients, but they're also rigorously tested for purity, potency, and safety. And the results speak for themselves. With ingredients like Fidogia agrestis and Tonkat Ali, I've seen more energy, better gut health, improved T levels, muscle mass, and performance. And the best part is that you can get a $5 discount off your next purchase with the promo code STAYCLASSY at checkout. Trust me, if you're looking to take your health and fitness journey to the next level, Dorado Nutrition is the way to go. I feel like from my experience from, the point in life where I'm at, like the post-collegiate era of a man's life is difficult in terms of fitness because, like for me, I competed in sports, I competed in athletics. I played rugby in college and, but afterwards, when that's all over, and people can keep playing, recreationally, and it's, can be difficult with a job, but there's a sense of like, man, like now what is it all about? Like, when the lights are off, when you're not playing in front of people anymore, I'm sure you've worked with a lot of athletes like that who, maybe they were stars in high school, college, but obviously not everyone makes it professional. So like, for the majority of people who just sort of move on into the regular life, like there's a sense of like, man, like what is this all for? Like what's next?
Yeah, that's soul searching time.
Yeah.
It's soul searching time. And there's a lot of people doing soul searching right now. There's probably a lot of people doing soul searching on all the great content that you're putting out, Steve, because it doesn't matter one's age and whether you're 18, you're 25, you're 35, you're 55. Heck, I have an 83-year-old client. And boy, do I love working with that guy because he's on fire to change the world, like literally to change the world. He's one of my most inspirational clients I work with. And I always say this is, again, like yourself, if you played sports and all of a sudden that was your identity and now you don't have that and that was your identity, well, then who are you? So coaches, when you're playing sport, you better not put all your identity in football or basketball or soccer or lacrosse or whatever that sport is you love it, it's your passion, but that's not necessarily who you are, it's what you do. So who the heck are you? And when you start putting pen to paper about, your gifts and your talents, well, how do you just take what gifts you have as a teammate and as an athlete and start to use that in the business world or in your career as a teacher or as a coach or as a doctor or a lawyer or an entrepreneur or as a engineer, whatever it is? How do you take those gifts and then, depending on what your mission is, like for me, I want to reach 10 million people in my lifetime, then, how am I going to do that? And what's my mission all about?
Yeah. You mentioned before that you do, work with people of not just, the pro athletes, but you work with, people who are beginner level, people who are intermediate level, people of all different shapes and sizes, ages. But I'm sure in the course of your career, having worked with an LT, having worked with the Darren Sproles, the Drew Brees, people on that level, Noah Phillips, et cetera, like you come to recognize certain level of talent, a certain level of professionalism, and a certain level of success. And you've done it yourself, as an entrepreneur. starting your own gym from bare bones, and you made it to where you are now. So what I'm asking is like the difference between when you coach people in your experience, the difference between people who succeed, people who really succeed, like the winners, the people who really make it, and maybe kind of the average person who just clocks in and out of life. Like from training people, like what do you see are the traits, the characteristics that develop that separate those two?
That's a good question. I got to start with a big one, because when you were asking that question, it made me think is the best of the best all time in anything, not just athletes and sport. It's going to sound rhetorical, but it's truth because I've walked it. Don't ever give up. All those athletes that you just mentioned, all of them have had significant adversity.
Yeah.
People forget, if those of you don't know who Drew Brees is, soon to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, he had his shoulder ripped out of his socket in 2005. I was at the game. I was there when that happened.
So he was with the Chargers?
Yes. Yes, he was with the Chargers. Shoulder ripped out of his socket. Dr. Andrews said, you're never going to be able to throw a football again, let alone play in the NFL. 3 months later, he's walking in my gym saying the NFL MVP of the league is in the house. I'm like, wait, huh? Well, we trained our tail off with his training partner, LaDainian Tomlinson. This is 2000 and going into 6. And in that time frame, interesting enough, that year, LaDainian Tomlinson won the MVP of the league. Drew was the second. He was the runner-up. He was second.
This is a year after the injury.
Yes, next than a year later.
Shit.
So it's that. It's to get your mind right. Like, that guy trained, like, I ain't giving up, and I'm not letting a doctor or anyone else define my path. Listen, Steve, in April of that year, before that, like 3 months after the surgery, he was at my house on draft day. He had not yet lifted a football, and it ticked him off that the Chargers drafted a quarterback, Phillip Rivers.
Also a great quarterback.
Like, I need to throw.
Yeah.
We go out in the front yard at the house, throwing a football about 3 to 5 yards is all he could do in April. My thought was, how is this guy going to be able to throw a football in an NFL game in just a few months? He was the runner-up to the MVP, his training partner.
Yeah.
Don't give up. That's number one. A guy like Drew, he brings out the best in everyone. And I look at the greats, the traits of the greats. When you're around those people, you bring out the best in everyone else. A guy like Sproles, who is an undersized running back who played almost 15 years in the league, that guy was a workhorse who was only, 5'6", 180.
Noel told me
and
about the workouts they used to do.
Him and Noel look a lot alike.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what, no one outworked Darren Sproles. Well, when you put Darren, Drew, and LaDainian in the same room, you got 3 guys that are just elevating the thermostat in the room. It's no different, though, and I can go through athlete after athlete after athlete that comes in with those guys are separate. It's that mentality. The mindset is the missing key to all of this. I can't tell you the number of great athletes I've worked with that weren't screwed in mentally.
Yeah.
And maybe they made it through high school. Maybe they even got a college scholarship or had the opportunity to play in college. If they didn't have the right mindset, you ain't going far in college. Or if they had the opportunity, guy or gal, to go to the next level in sport, if you're not tuned in mentally, you're not going to go far. Forget sport for a moment. Let's talk about life. Man, it's really easy to get distracted in life. Next thing you know, you're partying too much. You're not dialed into your own routine. You're not working out. You're not eating right.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, what am I doing this for? What are you doing it for?
Yeah.
What's life all about? What are you playing for? Do you want to be successful? Do you want to make a living? Do you want to provide for your family? Do you want to do some things that where you could travel, or you want to go give back, or you want to start a foundation someday, or you want to give back $1,000, $1 million, $10 million? I don't know. Only you can define what you want out of life. So for me, by being around these other high performers, my mindset has only been elevated, and I've always had a decent mindset, but in the last 10 years, man, it's gone to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, and I'm not into the business of throwing people under the bus or disparage anyone, but like for some of the opposite is also true, right? For the people who don't have the mindset, but who have the talent, you see that play out even on the professional level. I mean, I hate to call them out, but guys like Johnny Manziel, Jamarcus Russell. It's even Michael Vick, who's one of my favorite athletes, by the way, but just, the potential that was there that maybe wasn't fully fulfilled because of, the personal stuff. Like, I look at stories like that and I think, like, man, like, maybe, like, was there something missing about the mindset, the distractions, like, got to someone on that level, which I'm sure is incredible amount of stress, incredible amount of pressure at that level, incredible amount of distraction. But for the people who really succeeded, for the winners that you mentioned, there seems to be something different. So even though you have like incredible levels of talent and the people I just mentioned, talent and, the people who won the championships, people who took it all the way, the MVPs, there was something different about them.
Yeah, I'll talk turkey for a second. Whenever I meet with a potential client, not just an athlete, but especially an athlete, and they tell me they want to be great, they want to be great in the game, I'll say, great. What are you willing to give up?
Yeah.
What are you willing to commit to do or not do? What are you willing to eliminate from your routine that's holding you back from reaching your greatness? Now, it's one thing to say and hear the answer. It's another for them to do what they say they're going to do. The greats, the true greats, have the ability and the discipline to do what they say they're going to do. Most people don't, because they get distracted because of the people that they're running with. I call them thoroughbreds and donkeys. If you're with a bunch of donkeys, you're going to be a donkey, and you're soon going to make the wrong choice. If you're hanging with thoroughbreds got the blinders on, they're eating the right food, they're out there in the morning early, training, running, they're lean, they're muscular, and they're doing all the things they need to do. They're focused on what they have to do if you want to be great at whatever it is, not just sport. There's a lot of people, and you mentioned a few of them, but what I would always say is this, and have been around the game for a long time, I never judge anyone because there's always a story behind everybody.
Always.
And there's always something, because everyone has something. Everyone's got something.
Yeah.
And I'll say that for me, everyone's got something. There ain't no man or woman who can't be brought down by the flesh. So that being said, when everyone's got something, you got to make sure that something don't bring you down to a level of mediocrity or average, because if that is the case, then you can't reach up and reach your full pinnacle of potential, and that's a tragedy.
And you're sort of talking about this ability to control one's emotions, control one's desires, and subjugate that to a larger purpose. Like, I'm thinking about Eliud Kipchoge, the guy who broke the marathon under 2 hours, who said that, if you're only the disciplined people are free in life, because if you're undisciplined, you're a slave to your passions, your emotions, etc. So that's what I was thinking about while you were talking, is like this ability to subjugate some of those desires, some of those, flesh instincts to a greater purpose, to a greater calling.
Yeah, it's discipline. When you can identify what you want out of life, or heck, this year.
Yeah.
It's early 2024. You say, hey, by the end of this year, here's 5 things I want to do this year. Great. I can talk to a bunch of people on the street, and every one of them wants to be a millionaire. They want to be in great shape, but by next week they forgot what they even said.
Yeah.
When you write it down and you share it with other fire-breathing dragons, and you start to have the discipline to do what you say you're going to do, you reverse engineer it down into the action steps. And if you have the discipline to follow the action steps, that's where you're like, oh, she's different. Oh, he's different. No, they just have discipline to do that because someone's holding them accountable. It might be a coach. It might be a best friend. It might be the fact that they said, I'm going to the gym at 5 or 6 or 7 in the morning, whatever that is, that you go to the gym. But what are you willing to do to get to where you want to go? Because it's not just, hey, I want to make $1 million. Okay, what are you willing to do to get there? How many books are you willing to read? How many podcasts are you listening to on a regular basis? Are you just listening to music all the time? Are you listening to podcasts that are going to feed your soul? Are you in the evening, is your nighttime routine dialed in so that when you're sleeping, you can rest and recover so you can get back to the energy that you want to be at and show up at work or at school or in your sport, whatever it may be? It's discipline, it's habit. And out of all of the high performers, not just in sport, I'm talking in business as well, it comes down to mindset and habit is going to dominate your success.
Everything. It'll dominate everything in different areas too, like the entrepreneur stuff that you did and the athletic stuff. But I also want to talk a little bit about, so you have a podcast yourself. It's the Impact podcast.
That's right, Todd Durkin Impact Show.
And I've listened to a little bit of it, but can you tell people maybe about some of the recent episodes in terms of some of the things that I found helpful, but I'm not going to spoil it, but some of the things that I found helpful for lessons going into the new year, things to do, regular habits to practice that build towards success.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on It's like
How many
episode
episodes are there?
342.
Huge.
Been going for about 5 years on that. I love podcasting. I really do, Steve. It's been awesome because in having some friends and followers across the land, I love hearing from people I don't even know that say, hey, that episode that you did about the reinvention series, I didn't know you had that going on. Like, I'm real on my pod. Like, I share stuff that people are like, wait, what? You do this? Because people only believe what they read on your social media. But when you start listening to hour-long podcasts or whatever, you start to hear who that person is. And I've always been very transparent and authentic on my podcast about all things. Recently, the one you're relating to is just, I started off the year with just top 10 ways for you to change your life. Like, if you want to ignite and amplify the success in your life, do these things. And if you do them, it's up to you if you want to do them, then you're going to be more successful. Even myself, who I'm never completely content with where I'm at, it's how can I get better at these things? How can I work out more effectively? And my nutrition, do these following things. Boom, I cover on the show, and everything down to journaling. I mean, I created a journal in the middle of the pandemic because I get so many thoughts in a day, and like, how do I get this out of my head and onto paper so that I could just live with more, I'll say, peace, just internal peace that I'm doing everything I can to fulfill what my mission is on that. So these aren't things that most people do, but I've learned from my mentors, and I've had some really, really incredible mentors. And if they tell me to journal, I'm going to journal. I'm a good listener, and I've listened to my mentors who I've had in my life, and I'm a creature of habit, and I share that on the show.
Hey there, San Diego. I've been using Dorado Nutrition supplements for a little while now, and I can tell you they've made a huge difference in my health journey. Not only are they made in the USA with high quality ingredients, but they're also rigorously tested for purity, potency, and safety. And the results speak for themselves. With ingredients like Fidogia agrestis and Tonkat Ali, I've seen more energy, better gut health, improved T levels, muscle mass, and performance. And the best part is that you can get a $5 discount off your next purchase with the promo code STAYCLASSY at checkout. Trust me, if you're looking to take your health and fitness journey to the next level, Dorado Nutrition is the way to go. Yeah, and the thing is, and I really liked your podcast from what I listened, but I don't feel like, I feel like at everyone's core is we sort of know what these things are. Like deep down, like maybe for some of us it's subconscious, or some of us it's more explicit, but we sort of know, like in our heart, what the right thing to do is, but it's about the courage to do it. Seems to make the difference.
Some know, or you think I might want to work out more. I need to eat better, but they don't know specifically what to eat, what supplements should they take based on what they want. They don't have the plan, right? All the way down to, gosh, I got into in the fall about sleep and optimizing sleep, and I got into red light therapy and all of the different recovery modalities that one may use to enhance sleep, because I realized without sleep, and I was really cutting some serious not sleeping for years. It wasn't necessarily a good thing. And as men, especially, we pride ourselves sometimes. Like, I only got 5 hours or 4.5 hours.
Yeah, it's like you're telling your buddies at the bar, I only slept 3 hours last night.
Yeah, like that's like a badge of honor. Well, now it's not. It's not. In my mind, it's like, listen, that's number one. If you ain't sleeping, you're not going to be any good long term. And if you want to have a 25 illustrious career doing good things, you're going to need to take care of yourself.
Hey, you literally won't live as long.
Yeah. And forget just live as long. It's the years you're living won't be as good. Like, how do you optimize right now? Like this year, forget 5. Like, I want to make sure I'm great this year. How can I create an iconic year now? I mean, that's what I want to do, because God forbid you or I or whoever listening dies at the end of the year. Man, I want to make sure that year was cemented with some really good stuff from my family and what I put out into the world.
So sleep, I remember hearing about exercising. I think you said 6 days a week. And then hydration was another one.
Huge.
I think drinking less or cutting it out was another one.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
What else was in there?
I got into some of the yin stuff, I call it. It was prayer meditation. You choose. You want to meditate or you want to pray on that. So as a man of faith, hey, listen, if you can carve out time on a daily to get some quiet time or pray, that's got me through some really dark times. On that, journaling, again, is a great way. I've got a journal. It's 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. In the evening, yeah, because of sleep again, and you bookend your days with gratitude. It's a great way that if you have any anxiety or you want to have more clarity in your thought with all the great thoughts you have, start to journal that out as well. The other one was to give back is 3 motivational texts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that one.
Text random 3 people that you want to text and say, hey, thank you, Mary, so much for what you do for our team. You make us better. You make me better. And let me know how I can help you out. When Mary gets that in the morning or Bill gets that, and after I'm done working out, I just sent those 3 texts, all of a sudden, it shifts their energy. And 3 people just got an energy shift because of a text that I did.
Yeah.
So that's just a daily discipline that I try to do. Because when you get your 3 texts in, they see that when you look at text, 98% of texts are read within 2 minutes. They read that, and then next thing you know, like, oh, TD, just sent me a text, and then they're better. If I can do that every day, and let's say 6 to 7 times a week, 18 to 21 times a week, alone, just with that very simple process, that's some significant things. I go into depth on some other recovery things that one could do. I'm big on the physical side of how do you optimize energy. It's all about energy, man. Like if we can get our energy right and you get your mind right, if you can get your mind right, your body right, your soul right, what do you want to do? Tell me what you want. Now it's whatever your goals and visions are.
Now, I was thinking about what you're saying in terms of you talk about sleep, you talk about, what was the one we were just talking about though before? The meditation. Meditation and prayer. So I want to ask you this. This is something I ask people who come onto the podcast. I ask, Coach Noel Phillips about it. I ask pretty much anybody who brings it up. In terms of like faith and the importance of faith to you, is that something where, a lot of people grow up in church, they grow up going to church, maybe they call themselves religious, but for you, is that sort of a structure of your life, or is it something more fundamental to who you are, and how does that influence what you do on a regular basis?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking that. It's who I am.
Yeah.
I'll share this with you. Everyone's got their own walk. I believe I might be dead if I didn't have my faith. And what I mean by that is this. I grew up youngest of 8 kids, Catholic family, went to church every Sunday. Despite my parents getting divorced when I was just 5 years old, I'd ride my little blue and yellow Huffy bike to the Catholic church. And all the way through high school, I went to church every Sunday, and it was good. Saturday night or Sunday, I'd go to church. And I think it was because coming from a broken home, I just had 1 hour of peace there. Like I could just be, and I found peace there. But I went to college in the South. Next thing I know, I'm at Friday night chapel, and this guy, Freddie Mitchell, Pastor Freddie Mitchell, on a Friday night, he started talking about a relationship with Jesus, and I'm like, I've never even heard of like a relationship. I just, sit, stand, do your thing, and I was like, well, a relationship with Jesus. And like that changed my whole fundamental being of my relationship. It was a relationship with God versus just going to church.
Sure.
Right? So what happened was I got really strong in my faith in my early 20s. And then all of a sudden, my dad, my biggest cheerleader, mentor, he had a massive heart attack and died. So I went from like really strong of faith. And then I was like, God, like, how can you take my biggest supporter? Like, he was my dad. And next thing you know, I just spent a lot of time just questioning, should I go back to college? Why am I playing football? Football was my life. And next thing I know, I'm like, should I even go back and play? Like here I am, just wanting to get in a car and drive across the country. Why do I share? Because when I look back at the many ups and downs that come with life, I can't think of how I would have gotten through any of those times without my walk with God. Like Steve, the last few years were really tough for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. I will say, though, man, I had some serious adversity during that time. And without my faith, I would have been done because
Yeah.
I was burnout. I had a really serious back flare-up of my injury from when I was 25. It was really bad. You go to my Instagram, you can see the 37-degree curvature of the spine. Nothing's there. Doc asked me if I served in Iraq. I had 2 knee surgeries during that time, back surgery. Business was closed down because of the pandemic, and I went through hell. And everyone's got their own hell. But I went through a 3-year period of time that I really leaned heavily into my faith because I realized I couldn't count on anyone else but that. And I went deeper and deeper. And to answer your question, it's just been always a part of me in some way, but it's about a relationship now. And I feel really, really blessed to be able to do what I do. And I'd say this is I am blessed also to work with some really amazing people who are of faith. That 83-year-old man that I was telling you about, he's one of the most iconic pastors in the world. The world. Yeah, Pastor David Jeremiah.
That's your client?
That's my guy. That's my guy. 3 days a week I'm with that guy, and he lights the place up.
Yeah.
And we become great friends. I happen to, be great friends and work with him. I work with Pastor Miles McPherson here in town. Many folks, if you're in San Diego, know Miles. I just have these people around me that I'm not sure how they appeared in my life, but I've got like 4 really awesome pastors around me. And I learned.
All feeding into your energy.
Yeah, in some way. Like we feed each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like we feed each other and I feed them. And, Dr. J, who's 83, he's just written his 85th book, best-selling book. That guy inspires me like none other. Right? And then, Miles I've known for 23 years. And we do Bible study now every week. We did through the whole pandemic. That guy helped me big time through the pandemic. So, again, it's just a huge part.
It seems like a common trait. Like when you look at the greatest athletes, and it's not all of them, but a lot of them, their faith, their religious convictions are very strong. And that seems to be a consistent, it's more than the average person is that you see represented in the winners, the successful people in life. You see people who have strong faith, strong fundamental values, strong convictions.
Well, you realize this, the flesh will eventually let you down. Men and women, if you put your faith in the flesh will let you down. Men and women will let you down, but your faith won't. I put my faith in God, and I don't know. I'm very, very blessed to be able to do what I do, and I know it's a big part of who I am and my family. But let me tell you what: if there's ever a time where people are confused and all the other stuff going on, man, I just look at the amount of people out there that are jacked up and confused. I'm very, very grateful personally that I have a strong faith in God. And man, if I was to die tomorrow, leaving the studio here, Steve, I have no doubt where I'm going, and I'm going to heaven. And I want to make sure that I die empty. Like I have given this podcast everything. I've given my next book everything, and I have no doubts with where I'm going.
Is your faith the reason why you started the Impact Foundation? I wanted to talk about that for a minute.
A good question. No, that's not why I started the Impact Foundation. 2012, Hurricane Sandy devastated my hometown back on the Jersey Shore. Brick, New Jersey. And I sat here in San Diego in 2012, and 5 of my sisters, I couldn't get a hold of 2 of them because all the power was out and it was crazy back there. And I was thinking here, like, what can I do? And you couldn't get back there, and there was so much chaos. So I'd always had the desire to have a foundation, but I didn't know how to make a foundation, all that stuff. All of a sudden, through an epiphany, I was like, I'm going to start the Impact Foundation. The Impact Foundation is going to give back. So I partnered at the time with Brees, who's a great friend now. I've been training him for 23 years. But at that time, he had the Brees Dream Foundation. I created the Impact Foundation, and we did this fundraiser. We raised over $75,000 and gave 100% of it back to the recovery efforts back at Hurricane Sandy. Now, this was after his hurricane down in New Orleans that devastated down there. This is 2012 on the Jersey Shore. And then since that time, every year, anyone from San Diego listening, Steve, we give scholarships to colleges all over the country for high school student athletes. That's part of it. The last 2 years, man, I don't want to get emotional, but the Durkin Impact Foundation has given back to some families who've lost young men to suicide. And I coached 2 of these kids. I coached them on my watch. 2 kids took their own life. That fires me up. That, man, how did I not see that? How did we not see that? And the pandemic, I don't know, you can't blame it just on the pandemic, but I'm going to blame it on a lot of the stuff around that, is 2 kids lost their freaking life because I didn't see that. Not anymore. So the Impact Foundation, one of the things we do is we give back to families in need, those who are suffering, I would hope that in the future that foundation only grows and grows, and my wife and I can do more on that, because last I checked, there's a lot of hurting people. And the last thing I want to do is go to another darn funeral of a man or woman, boy or girl, because they took their own life. And in the last 2 years, it's become more and more poignant to me that the work we do matters. The work you do matters. This podcast matters. I don't know who's listening to it until someone reaches out to you, Steve, or to me and say, hey, thanks. I was listening to that and I know someone who's struggling, or I'm struggling. Like, I don't know. You don't know when you're doing your life's work of who you're reaching. But I know this, man. Going to a funeral of an 18-year-old boy, that's one of the toughest things anyone could ever do. If that was your son or your daughter, I couldn't even imagine the pain that one would feel. And I don't want people to feel anymore. And this epidemic is crushing, especially men 18 to 23 years old. I don't want to start going through all the stats, but I've really done a lot of research on this. Is what can I personally do on my watch? Not just Fitness Quest 10, because that's a small sliver of it. I want to know in 2024, this is my own self-talk, is I'm going to do something to put a stamp on this thing nationally. Because there's things that I can do nationally through shows like this, Steve, that and beyond in the brick and mortar space, that we can do better jobs as coaches, as men, as women, as moms and dads, to do something to help body, mind, and soul. It comes down to the body, mind, and soul. How are we impacting people with that?
And I just want to say this next question, I'll preface by saying that the topic you just brought up is extremely personal to me. I think what I was going to say is, like, for people who are in that position, who, one of my closest friends, unfortunately, 5 years ago this week, took his own life. And I'm thinking, like, and for people like that, thank you. People like that, though, who are in that position of, hopelessness, of despair. The pandemic did accelerate these things, but it's always around. I have friends who are veterans who deal with PTSD. Like,
that's right.
And I'm just wondering, like, for people in that situation who face so much adversity, so much hopelessness, and not just, and you faced it, the physical pain and also the mental side of things. For people who are in that position of hopelessness, like, what do you say to those people? Like, what do you, like, in the foundation, the work you do, like, when you're reaching out, when you're talking to people who are in that situation, like, what is, like, the message you send?
The first thing is reach out, man.
Yeah.
Reach out, especially guys don't want to ever reach out. I didn't want to reach out in the pandemic. Not that I was suicidal then, but when I was going through really bad back pain, I didn't tell anyone. Why? Because I don't want to be my back pain. Hey, Todd, how's your back? How's your back? How's your back? Because when you're in physical pain, it affects your mental psyche. So I'd be training my people in a back brace. I wouldn't tell them because I didn't want people to know. Guys were stubborn. You got something going on, please share it. My best friends in my inner circle, they knew what was going on, but I didn't want to share it with the world of how much physical pain I was in. Matter of fact, I'm writing a book right now called True Strength. And the book's not going to come out till June of 24, but I'm sharing some of these trials because, to your point, when you're walking through hell and you're walking through a tough time in your life, especially guys, but gals too, you don't always want to share your tough times, or you'll go drink, or you'll go do drugs, or you do something to numb the pain, to hide the pain, instead of face the pain or see a professional. Like, that's the best thing, is like see a doctor or see a psychotherapist or a therapist, or get professional help on that. But I would say is share it with somebody. Don't be in invisible pain, because it just spirals down and down and down and down. And whether you've been in the military, or you're a guy or gal who is just trying to figure out life, and you're like, man, I should figure out life. I'm 24 years old, or I'm 32. I should have this figured out, or I'm 47. Man, Steve, I got to tell you, I've seen it all. And those last couple ones, they were tough. They're tough.
Sucks.
And they're all tough. They're all tough. But when you think like your friend 5 years ago on that, is I just know that everything I do, everything I write, every show, you just never know who's going to be listening. And my whole view, not to go down this path, but my views changed a lot on that. Like, listen, man, way back, I lost would have been my future brother-in-law to suicide. I was a young kid, like I hadn't started my gym yet and all these things. I'm like, how can someone do that?
Yeah.
I was like, what? How can someone do that?
When you're that young, it's hard to conceptualize.
Now I'm much more empathetic to people who don't, when they get to that point, man, reach out.
Yeah.
Even when you have faith, it doesn't make it easy. Just like, oh, no, even when you have a faith, so you got to believe in something. But, this is a deep topic, and I appreciate you bringing it up. All I could say is this, man, if anyone's got stuff going on, and we all got stuff going on, but if it's to a point where, man, you're like spiraling downward and you're not feeling like your quote self, then reach out to someone, reach out to a professional, and get help, because there is help. And what I've always learned, and my story has been this way, when you look back, it makes perfect sense. Like, oh, when I look back from 25 to 30, going through hell when I had my back pain, it was the perfect setup for what was to be the next 20 plus years of my career. In going through the pandemic of knee surgeries, back of another 3-year window of time, I look back and I'm like, wow, this is setting me up for what's going to be the next 25 years of my life.
Yeah. Because
of what's about to come in 2024 and what we're doing. And that, it's like, when you're walking through hell, sometimes you got to taste it. You got to feel it. Don't give up. That's when you ask about the traits a lot. Like, whether you're an athlete or whether you're a non-athlete, just don't give up. Keep going and keep digging and clawing. Find ways to move, because when you move and you exercise, all of a sudden, a few minutes in, your mind, your brain is going to release hormones and endorphins. I call them the dose. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins get released. That's going to allow you to elicit good feelings. So when I couldn't do that, and I couldn't sleep on my stomach, my right side, or my back, I could only see my left side. I could only see my left side. I wasn't sleeping, and I couldn't sit on a bench to lift or work out. I couldn't walk to the mailbox, let alone walk around the block. Find a way. Do bear crawls, 5 yards forward, 5 yards back, and do it for 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, you start to feel these endorphins kick in. Move your body. I always say, movement is medicine, right? Movement is medicine. Motion is lotion. Movement is medicine. If you can move your body, it's medicine. Find a way. Oh, Todd, my knee hurts. Then go your upper body. Oh, my upper body is killing me. Then do your lower body. Find something, because it's literally medicine to your body and your mind that'll make a huge difference in your life.
Now, was there ever a point when you had the injury or, I mean, when I look at you, I see, entrepreneur, trainer, author, motivational speaker, philanthropist, a business owner, all these different things. And I'm wondering, like, you do so much on a regular basis. I mean, I know from just the interactions I've had with you how busy you are. And I'm wondering, or I probably don't even know the full scale of it. I mean, you have a family too, which I don't have. So
that's number one.
Yeah, that is number one. That's not a throwaway item there. That's number one. But for all the responsibilities you have in your life, I'm sure there's some days where it gets to you. And there's some times when the amount of things that you have to do and the amount of ways that you have to be great, it's a lot for one person to handle. Is there ever a moment that it does sort of like sink in and get you down? And how do you personally respond to that? Like maybe there's a truth that's been spoken into your life that you use to respond to a situation like that or a day like that.
Yeah. Some of the mentality I use, I guess, to get through, if you step back, you're like, oh, he does this and that. Number one, please don't be like, well, if you judge other people or you have that comparison game, don't play that. It just means I've been around for a little while. But what I would say is this, just have that like win the day mentality.
Yeah.
Think about this the other day. Not only win the day, win the hour. Like if you can be so micro focused on, I'm going to maximize today. I'm going to maximize this hour. Oh, what's in this hour? Podcast. Oh, what's next? In a little while, I'll see my daughter play a high school soccer. I'm going to be all into that. If you can live so micro that you don't get overwhelmed by all of the things that are out there, regardless of how many things you have or don't have, my question every day when I'm journaling is, what am I going to do today to win the day? And if I have 3 to 5 things down and I do those things, it's going to be a winning day. If I have more winning days than losing days, it's going to be a winning week. Winning weeks lead to winning months, winning quarters. You win the quarters, you win the year. So to me, it's really micro in the sense of how do you get to the point where I'm going to win the day, I'm going to win the hour, and I'm going to own the morning. And if I own the morning, I'm going to own my life. Boom. Next thing I know, you can focus. And to also touch on this, of course there's times I get frustrated in the day. Every day. Every day there's something I'm like, gosh, why did this take so long? Or why is this taking so long? Or, man, I wish I could just kind of skip this step and move to this. But isn't that life? That's the life of an entrepreneur. That's the life of, we're not in this linear life of it just keeps going up and up and up. There's these blips up and down, up and down, up and down. And it's always in the down, even though we don't like to admit it. It's on the downside of these that you actually win. And one of the things that, it was actually Pastor Jay who shared this the other day when I was training him. He said, the crest of the wave determines the depth of the valley. Like, wait, one more time. He said, the crest of the wave determines the depth of the valley. The higher you go, be careful, because whatever that is going to be, you could go way low.
Yeah.
But remember, the rebound effect is how low you are today could also determine the crest of the wave. The crest of the wave determines the depth of the valley. That means sometimes there's going to be really big ups. But be careful. Let's not get too high on our horse here that life is all grandiose and all this success. If you're in a time of success right now, enjoy it. But just not to the point where, you think it's always going to be that way, because the crest of the wave determines the depth of the valley. It means you could also have crashes that come down and bring you down, or you get news of a son or daughter doing something stupid, or someone in your life, something happens to. Like, it's this ebb and flow of life. And I thought that was some pretty profound wisdom.
That's truth anybody can take from. Now, I could go for hours here. We do have to wrap up, but man, you are killing it. Like,
thank you.
And I mean, the gym, the foundation, what have you written now? 4 books? 4 or 5?
I'm on my 5th one right now.
5th book right now.
Yeah.
And you're still doing the podcast on a weekly basis? Or?
Weekly basis.
Weekly basis, man.
I love
You're
my
killing
podcast.
it. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, no, I love the podcast.
I wanted to ask you though, just for people as we're closing, like, for people maybe who wanna train with you or who want to get involved, like in the gym, like, how can people get involved with you? How can people connect to you? What's the best way to start?
Yeah. Number one, definitely listen to the podcast, the Todd Durkin Impact Show. I think that's going to give you your daily dose of, you can go back through hundreds of episodes if you wanted to and binge out on that. But also, I love Instagram. You can DM me on Instagram.
At Todd Durkin, right?
Yeah, it's just at my name, at Todd Durkin, so it's 3 Ds in there. And that's a great way to reach out. And
Do you have a website or?
Website, todddurkin.com. Todddurkin.com is got all of our different offerings. And I love live events. I love live events. I'm actually going to be heading here in a few days. I'll be back in New York speaking at an event. And then I'm in Miami speaking at an event. I'm in Whitefish, Montana, which is part of my a legacy project I'm working on. But I love live events. I love travel and I love live events. And the last couple of years, I've been able to do more and more of that. And I'm also in the midst right now of training the pro baseball guys who are getting ready to report for spring training here by mid-February, as this is going to be dropping sometime probably right before that. So it's stay focused on the day, what you got to be doing. And, fortunately, as you grow, and I know we've got all different ages listening in, some wisdom I got early on is, and I still use it, is like I texted it someone today on my team is, all about teamwork makes the dream work. Teamwork makes the dream work. And, do what you do best and hire the rest. Do what you best and hire the rest. Like, what are you great at? Like, what are you BIW at? What are you best in the world at? Like, if you could say, hey, I'm really good in these 2 or 3 things. Well, when you're young and you're you got, carpet on the floor and refurbished equipment and no clients and no money and no business plan, but you got big dreams, you gotta bootstrap it, and you gotta hustle 7 days a week to kind of get to that level that you want to get to. But sooner or later, you're gonna figure out a way to start bringing someone on, one person on, part-time or trading out, to start doing social media to help you out, or to start your own podcast, or to help you write some social media. Like, I'm always like, man, I always feel overwhelmed with social media. Like, how do I find a videographer that can help me with some of the assets that we need for social media?
Hire this guy.
Right? Like I get overwhelmed with that because there's always content. I was in New York City last week. I'm like, man, I wish I had somebody full time, like on a camera with that. But it's overwhelming sometimes, the amount of things that I don't feel like, man, I'm leaving things on the table. I should be doing that. And could you have someone that could help the team do that on a regular basis? So you never feel, regardless of the level of success that you have or have not had, you never feel like you've fully ever made it, right? Like, oh man, there's always another level. And that goes back to LaDainian, my first client again. Is like, there's always another level. There's always, even when you win the MVP of the NFL, and he asked me, what's next? I'm like, do it again. He's like, no, there's got to be another level. Yeah, 2-time MVP. But I get that mentality now, many years later, of, man, even when you reach certain accolades or you reach your goals for 2024, you're going to say to yourself, man, like, what's next? Like, how do I impact more people? And how do I go from 10 million people to 100 million people? If I want to reach 100 million people in my lifetime, what is that going to take to do that? And what's the team going to be? And then all of these things. But that's life, man. That's what makes life so precious. And if there's one thing that I've learned, and I appreciate being on your show today, is you just never know. One person, one man or woman in the Vaughn's grocery store today, or on the bus, or on the plane, man, be nice to everybody. Just be nice, smile at people, be nice to people, ask how you can serve people, and literally do it and follow up. Yeah. Because if there's a time that the world needs just good people, like, people, if you do good, people sometimes look at you like, okay, is this for real? Like, because people aren't used to getting kind of like a door open for them, or hey, how are you doing today? And when you're around other good people and it rubs off, I do believe then that leaves our impact in the corner of the universe that that's what makes me tick. So I'm honored to be here today, Steve. And
This has been fun, man. And as I said, we go for hours, but we do have to stop there. But I wanted to say one more time, your book, what's the 5th book called?
Well, it's going to be called True Strength.
True Strength. It's coming out in June this year.
June
be on Amazon, all that good stuff.
Eventually, yes.
Okay. And your website, todddurkin.com.
Todddurkin.com. Instagram, Todd Durkin.
Okay. And are you taking clients?
Always taking
Always taking clients?
Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
taking clients in two different ways. Obviously, on the training side, I keep it limited, but I do teach class as well, and we have people from all walks doing class. And obviously, I do one-on-one, which I love some one-on-one training. But also, I do life coaching, and I started an actual certification earlier this year in 23, and I've got 44 people nationally going through a life coaching certification program, and that ends here in March of 24, and then we'll be starting our round 2 of life coaching, because I just have realized in my walk and path, it's not just fitness. Fitness is always like the heart and center of it all. But what about when you have dreams and visions, and like, how do you take all of this and put it into a plan, reverse engineer that, be around the right people, be in the room at these retreats, and then get the vigor and the energy and the vitality to go proliferate what you want to. So it's called the Todd Durkin Impact Life Coaching Certification. All that's on the website though, Steve, todddurkin.com.
Yeah.
And you can see some of the things that we're doing.
Todd Durkin, ladies and gentlemen, episode 63, Stay Classy, San Diego. Thanks so much, Todd.
Thanks, Steve.
It's been a
Appreciate you.
privilege.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. That's a wrap.
This has been another recorded episode of Stay Classy San Diego with your host, Steve Wire. Thanks again to our sponsor, MaxLux Media at maxluxmedia.com. Check us out at stayclassypod.com or any of our social media outlets. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and everywhere else you get your podcast content. Please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue bringing you important content that you're not going to see anywhere else. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning into the show. See you next time. Stay classy, San Diego.